All right. Hey, my name is Karen Rasponi. I'm in your online first aid class, KINE 220 V84, I think. But today we're going to do the video number 3 on splinting. A lot of it's going to be very similar to the last video assignment where we had bandaging. However, after doing the gained consent, primary check, gloves, and all of that, we're instead going to splint a finger instead of bandaging a hand. So, for ease of videoing, instead of doing like a humerus or a, I don't know, pelvic splint or anything like that, I figured it'd be easier to do something on the hand, like fingers, just so that everybody can see it. Okay, normally at my house I do keep a finger splint in my first aid kit, but this is not something that I would normally have like in my car. So for the sake of the video, I'm gonna do a buddy splint instead, just kind of a heads up. Okay, so the first important thing when we are going to give first aid is to do our first impression, our primary check. So just like in the last video, we would kind of see, okay, does this person appear to have an injury? Zach has a broken finger, so yeah. Zach clearly has a broken finger. He's clearly responsive. We can tell that he is awake and alive. His eyes are open. He's breathing. And there's no obvious sign of bleeding, so in this case it would be a closed fracture. We do not have skin being ruptured or any blood or anything like that in this particular case. And regardless of the fact that there's no blood, no real chance of me coming in contact with bodily fluids, just to be safe, it's always a good idea to have your gloves and wear gloves during the entire process. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, we would want at this point to, really before you put the gloves on, but you would want to talk to the person first and kind of introduce yourself, like, hey, I'm Karen Rasponi. I'm trained in first aid. Do you mind if I help you and splint your finger for you?
Please do.
Please do. Okay. So just to kind of double check their responsiveness, you would ask them a few questions like, what's your name?
Zach.
Zach. And then, do you know where you are?
Yes.
Okay. What is the month and year?
This is April 2016.
Okay. And do you know what happened to your finger?
Apparently I broke it. I don't know how I felt, but I did.
Okay, cool. So normally the person would know the answers to all of these questions, and obviously if they say you can't help or if they don't know any of these things, you would have a very different kind of conversation following. But past this point, we've checked responsiveness, we've gotten our first impression, we've checked responsiveness, we've checked breathing, there's no severe bleeding, so we can kind of move on. And since he's awake and responsive and all he has is a broken finger, there's not any like specific positioning of the victim that we have to do. So the next important thing after having your gloves on, make sure that as you're doing everything, you're telling the victim what you're going to do. So Zach, I'm going to buddy splint your finger, so I'm going to use gauze and tape to splint one of your fingers to another one so that it's sturdy. So here I would have gauze with me in my first aid kit, hopefully. Otherwise we would need some other kind of padding in order to keep the fingers separated. So let's say his ring finger is the broken one. We would carefully put gauze between the two, and I would tell you, hey,
You're still on the phone.
I would tell you, hey, I'm padding this, and then the next thing that you have to do is you have to tape, but you have to make sure that you do not tape over your injury. So if maybe his knuckle is what's broken, we'd have to tape above and below. So you would usually have to tell the victim this because it's probably going to hurt. I mean, their finger's broken. You don't really want to do these kind of things without telling them. So I would take this tape. Hopefully you have some form of adhesive in your first aid kit. And I'll let you know, Zach, I'm going to tape right above here. Okay, so you would do that. Preferably better than this. All right. And then you will do one more tape below the injury just so that it stays still. And tape sticks to gloves, fun fact. So we would tape right below. tear this off, and it would look a little bit cleaner, hopefully, but we would have our taped buddy finger with padding in between. This prevents him from being able to move it. And this is not any kind of rigid splint or anything like that. It's called a self-splint because you're using another body part to keep this broken piece still. But past that point, all that we really need to do is clean up. So past this point, we would just retrieve all of the trash and everything that we've used, including the gloves, and make sure we dispose of that properly. So instead of just throwing this away, even though there wasn't blood or anything crazy, we do want to make sure that we dispose of it properly. So we do need to put all of this in a bag and make sure that later we dispose of this bag properly so that diseases aren't communicated through the trash. So we have our gloves properly taken off via the 4-step process that we learned previously. And we have our gauze trash, which I rolled up in there. And now we are ready. We are good. And we have a splinted finger. And that is all. Thank you.